Recording in progress. Hello everyone, nice to meet you. I'm Sharon from YYC Group. Welcome to our YYC webinar. Today, I'm here to guide you through the usage of Zoom and how to interact with our speaker in Zoom. Many of you might have used Zoom before, but I'm sure that we have some first-timers here today. So please bear with me a bit, okay? First of all, there are two types of devices that you can use to enter Zoom, either through your laptop or your mobile device. We strongly recommend you to use your laptop instead of your mobile because we want you to avoid any interruptions from receiving any incoming calls throughout the webinar. When you enter the Zoom interface, you will find a bar below the interface. There are two icons that you must take note, which are unmute and stop video. Please be informed that we will mute your microphone once you've entered the designated room. This will prevent any unnecessary noise and will give you a better experience. Now, you must be wondering, how can I interact with the speaker if you mute my mic? Don't worry, you can click on the chat button. When the chat box pops out, you can send messages to the host if you encountered any technical issues. For example, you can't hear the speaker talking, or you may choose everyone if you would like to express yourself to the rest of the participants. For the stop video icon, we would encourage you to turn it on so that you and our speaker can see each other during the webinar. But if you're not comfortable with it, you can turn it off by clicking on it again. Okay, now let's move on to the reaction part. When you click on the reaction, you will see two emoticons, claps and likes. You can send us this reaction during the webinar to interact with our speakers, to raise your hand if you have any questions. Now we have just finished the laptop version, and now we will do a quick one for mobile users. First, you need to allow Zoom to access your microphone and camera. You will then find a bar below the interface. Click on the Join Audio, and next click on Call using Internet Audio. Then your icon will be like this. Same goes to the Stop Video. We will be delighted if you're okay to show your face to us. If yes, click on it. Do you see the three-dot button written as More? Click on it and you will find the chat button. You may send your messages to the host if you encounter any technical issues, or say hi to everyone by choosing Everyone as the receiver. For the reaction part, you can click on More and find two emoticons, the claps and the likes. That's all for now. I'm Sharon from YYC. I wish you happy learning. Bye.
Hi, a very good day to all of you. Let me take this opportunity to introduce YYC to you. YYC is an accounting and advisory firm founded in 1974 with 49 years of experience. Our vision is to become the #1 world-class accounting and advisory firm in Asia, while our mission is to inspire everyone to overcome their odds, unleash their potential, and find fulfillment in life. To put it simply, this means that your success is our priority. Our brand promise is to empower entrepreneurial success with XPX. We want to share our expertise, serve you with proactive care, and create a positive experience for you. YYC is not an ordinary accounting firm. Everything we do is inspired by our vision, mission, and brand promise. Other than typical audit, tax, and accounting services, YYC has its own advisory arm, covering tax advisory, strategic planning, corporate finance, restructuring, and valuation service. YYC also has its own business school, offering business education programs such as strategic and equity planning mastery, various finance training modules, and customized in-house training. In recent years, we have also developed our own tax platforms, namely YYC for Success and TaxPod. TaxPod, or Tax Professionals on Demand, is a one-stop tax education platform providing tax planning content through video, live webinars, and update classes. YYC is a multinational company with Singapore's OTBC Bank as one of our investors and strategic partners. Our headquarters located in Hulu, Kuala Lumpur, while our other branches are located in Selangor, Penang, Johor, and Singapore. Presently, we have more than 800 employees in YYC, and we have served over 20,000 clients, trained 140,000 participants, and held close to 6,000 live webinars. Without further ado, let's welcome our speaker for today. Thank you, and enjoy the webinar.
All right, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all of you. Welcome all of you. Welcome to our free online webinar about e-invoicing 101. SMEs must know. Now, I can see some people just now were telling me that there is no sound, yeah? But I just want to double check with everyone right now. Are you able to hear me speaking? Are you able to see these slides over here? Now, if you can hear me clearly right now, let's say if everything is okay, you can hear me, can you just type sound okay in the chat box? Just type sound okay in the chat box to tell me that everything is, the sound is okay. All right, sound is okay, because just now I have been hearing and have seeing someone typing in the chat box saying that, there is no sound, I can't hear anything. But if the sound is okay right now, you can hear me clearly right now, just type sound okay in the chat box. All right, you can see a lot of people right now have been typing sound okay already. Well, and guess what? Today, we have close to 800 people right now. Yeah, you probably be saying, hey, you sure not 800? Because if you are in this Zoom session, you probably see only 600 over people. Over there, it's close to 200. Yes, we have got 800 because we have got 2 Zoom sessions going on at the same time. Yes, we have about 800 over people, and we will have more coming in because I can see a lot of people in the waiting room right now, waiting to be admitted into our free online webinar. Now, you know what, right? We're just about to start. If you, right, have got any friends, any family members, anyone, business partner, business associate, that you think you want them to learn about e-invoicing as well, guess what? Look into the chat box right now. Go to the chat box right now. Look at the link that my colleague has just shared in the chat box. Copy that link, send it over to your friends right now. And tell your friends, your family members that, hey, this free online webinar about e-invoicing is just about to start. So they are not too late to join right now. So copy that link, send it over to your friends, your family members, your business partner, business associates. Use whatever means you have. You can send it via WhatsApp. You can use Messenger, Line, anything. Yeah, I'll get my team to put up the link again into the chat box. Yes, the link is in the chat box. Just copy that link and send it over. All right, once again, a very, very good afternoon to all of you, right? Now, I know some of you probably do not know who I am and have not seen me. Well, I haven't even introduced myself, right? My name is Zen Chow, and I'm the tax practice leader for YYC Group, all right? I'm the tax practice leader. I'm the tax for YYC Group as well. And today, what do I want to share with you? Today, what I want to share with you is all about e-invoicing, the fundamentals about e-invoicing. Now, I just double check with everyone over here. I have got right now 800 over people already, close to 900 right now. We've got close to 900 people right now. I want to double check with all of you one thing. How many of you here, out of these 900 people, have not even understood about e-invoicing? You know nothing about e-invoicing. You probably heard about the term only. You do not know how it works. You do not know how the flow works. You do not know how to handle e-invoicing. If that is you, can you put 111 in the chat box? Come on, type 111 in the chat box. If you are someone who has got no idea about what e-invoicing is all about, you have heard about the term, but you do not know how it works, you do not know how to handle it all. Wow, I see a lot of 111 in the chat box. Now, if you do not know, just put 111. I want to see who doesn't know about e-invoicing. And I know all of you who has just typed 111 come in today to learn about e-invoicing, and you want to know how it affects you, isn't it? Right? I know that is what you want to learn. And today, I want you to pay full attention, yeah? Because today we have all the way until 4 o'clock, yeah? We have all the way until 4 o'clock, yeah? I want you to pay your full attention because I want to tell you all you need to know about e-invoicing and how it affects you, how it affects your company, how it affects your business. Okay, so we have all the way until 4 o'clock, and I want you to pay attention because I want to share all I know to all of you. Okay, so now I just want to ask a very simple question. Are you all ready to learn about e-invoicing 101? If you are ready, can you type R-E-A-D-Y, ready, in the chat box so that I can go straight into today's topic? If you're ready, put R-E-A-D-Y, ready. I see everyone is typing ready. All right, I've got 900 over people right now. If all of you are ready, let's go in and talk about what you will learn today. Now, today, for the next 1.5 hours until 4 o'clock, I will tell you, first of all, what is e-invoicing. I will tell you who is affected. How do you use e-invoicing? And more importantly, how to implement e-invoicing. And you probably would have heard about these terms like self-bill e-invoice, consolidated e-invoice. What are they? I'm going to tell you a little bit about these as well. And I know a lot of you always wonder, if I have got staff claims, if I have to claim some, money back from the company, how do I use e-invoice? I'm going to tell you about that as well. And what happens if you don't comply with e-invoicing? What are the offenses? So these are the things that you will learn. You see, there are quite a lot of things that I want to cover, right, in the next 1.5 hours, all the way until 4 o'clock. So I want all of you to pay attention because every single bit that I want to share with you will be very important. Okay, so let's first look at what is e-invoice. Now, a lot of people misunderstood when I first talk about e-invoice. When I tell people e-invoice, it's going to be implemented soon. You're going to use e-invoice in future for your business. And someone would tell me this. They say, hey, Zen, you know what? I have been doing e-invoicing already. I have been using e-invoice already. And I will ask, are you sure? Are you sure you have been using e-invoice already? They say, yeah. You know what? Last time, I used to issue invoice manually, using hard copy. But now, I use soft copy. I send PDF invoice. I send JPEG. I send Word document invoice. I no longer use manual invoice. And I say, are you sure this is e-invoice? You know what? That is not the e-invoice we're talking about. If you say you are using soft copy invoice and you thought that is e-invoice, you are wrong. You're totally wrong. That is not e-invoice. So what is e-invoice over here? Now, e-invoice is a digital representation of the transaction. In other words, it's a digitalized invoice. Yes, it's a digitalized invoice. It replaces your conventional invoice. It replaces your paper invoice. It even replaces your electronic documents. Yes, e-invoice is not like the PDF copy that you've been sending out. It replaces this, but of course, it would contain all the essential information like the buyer's details, supplier's details, the item, the price, etc. And one very important thing here is it applies to both international and local transactions. Now, so if some of you were still thinking, hey, do I only use e-invoice for local transactions? No, you use the e-invoice for both local and international transactions. And it applies to business, B2B, business to consumer, and even business to government, B2G. In other words, all of your business transactions, whether you sell it to another business, to a consumer, or even to a government, you have to use e-invoice. Now, you probably ask me, now if you say e-invoice is not in those PDF format, so what kind of format is that? Now, the format that we're talking about when it comes to e-invoice is XML and JSON. And you will say, what are these formats? I've never heard about these formats before. What is XML? Extensible Markup Language. What is that? JSON, JSON, what is this? It's a JavaScript format. And I can say, if not all, most of you probably have not even seen this kind of format before. Yeah? Now, this format is not something that you would generate like what you have been doing. These formats are actually generated by the e-invoice system. I'm going to tell you more about that e-invoice system. That's a system where you will use it to generate these invoices. In other words, if you say, I've been using PDF, I've been using document, I've been using JPEG, sorry, this is not the format we're talking about. These are not the e-invoice formats, all right? So if you have been thinking that these are the e-invoices, no, they are not at all. So what is really e-invoice? Now, first of all, let's talk about the benefit. You see, in the whole e-invoice world, now let me just tell you this. Just imagine when everyone uses e-invoice, when all businesses are using e-invoice, this is what could happen, all right? Let's say you are selling something. You will issue e-invoice to your customer. And you know what? At your customer's side, they will automatically see the e-invoice appearing in their system when you issue an e-invoice to them. Likewise, when you buy something from a seller, from a vendor, automatically the e-invoice will appear in your system as well. And that means when the e-invoice is being used by everyone, everything will be in the system. Everything will be linked to each other. And that will definitely reduce human efforts, reduce human errors. And more importantly, it will facilitate efficient tax return, isn't it? Because everything is actually in the system. And the most important thing is it saves you time. It saves you cost because you don't have to enter all the transactions into your system anymore because everything is automatically appearing in your system. Because if someone gives you an e-invoice, it appears in your system. You give someone an e-invoice, that invoice appears in that person's system, right? In other words, everything will be digitalized. That means your tax reporting, your financial reporting, everything will be digitalized. That is the whole concept of e-invoice. Now, you probably will be thinking, now, so who needs to issue e-invoice then if you say everything should be digitalized? Here, it says all taxpayers undertaking commercial activities will need to issue e-invoice. Now, what do I mean by undertaking commercial activities? That means you're doing business. As long as you're doing business, you have the intention to sell something, sell goods or sell service, and you want to make money, you want to make profit out of it. That's called commercial activities. You are doing a business. If you say, I'm doing business, I'm doing commercial activity, you have to issue e-invoice. See, whether it is business to business, like I said, business to consumer, or even business to government, you have to use e-invoice. But I know some of you may be thinking about this. They say, hey, wait a minute, all right? Let's say if I am running a restaurant, I have got hundreds of customers coming into my restaurants every day, even thousands of customers coming into my restaurants every day. Now, if you say I have to issue e-invoice to all these customers, hey, it's going to be so much work, right? Every time, when they eat, I have to issue e-invoice, I have to put into the system. Now, later, I'll tell you one thing. There's a very special thing called consolidated e-invoice. Now, what is this consolidated e-invoice all about? Yeah, it's actually saying if you are selling something to your consumer, and if your consumer do not need an e-invoice from you, you can just use the normal invoice like what you're doing right now, normal receipt that you're using right now, but every month, you will need to consolidate these receipts, these bills, these receipts. I'm going to tell you more about that. So you got to stay on, Don't leave halfway, because I've got a lot of details that I want to tell you. Later, I'm going to share more about what this consolidated e-invoice is all about. So you got to stay here. Now, I see questions coming in already. I see Angeline is asking, what about freelancer? A freelancer is doing commercial activities, but definitely you still have to do e-invoice. What about transportation? Tamil Selvi was asking, yes, of course you need to use e-invoice. Legal firms, need not to say, you definitely have to do e-invoice. Service-based consulting and training, definitely you have to use e-invoice. All of these are considered as commercial activities. Yeah, no way you can escape that. All right. Now, people may be asking, hey, so what you're seeing right now is that if I'm doing a business, I'm having commercial activities, I have to do e-invoice, right? So that means I must have a company, right? I must have a Sandran Berhad, is it? No. Now, look at this. The e-invoicing guideline says, even individuals need to do e-invoicing because it says all individuals and legal entities will be required to comply with e-invoice as long as you are doing commercial activities. You see, an individual can be running a business. You can be a sole proprietor, right? Like someone was telling me, a freelancer. Yeah, you are doing commercial activities. So individuals and all legal entities, including branch, business trusts, corporations, of course, that's Sandran Berhad, LLP, limited liability partnership, or even a partnership, a conventional partnership, trust body, unit trust. all of you have to implement e-invoice. All right. Now, people were asking me, what about street sellers, street hawkers? Yes, of course, you are doing business, what? Right? What about NGO, non-organizational profit like temple? Well, you are an association. Did you know that all these NGOs, all these temples, they are registered as an association? You still have to do e-invoicing. So now you know how wide the scope is. Even like Go In was asking me private tuition. Hey, you are doing business, isn't it? I mean, you are earning money, right? And that's a commercial undertaking. That's also something covered under this. Yeah, you have to do invoice as well. So now, if so many people need to do invoice, now you would ask me, why is e-invoicing so important? What's the use of this e-invoice? After I've issued an e-invoice, what's the use? Okay, listen, okay? E-invoice is just like, a document that you send to your customer and tell them, hey, I'm selling you something, I'm selling you a goods, I'm selling you service, and please pay, right? That's what invoice is all about, right? So you see, e-invoice, first of all, is your proof of income, all right? It is for you to say how much income I have made. So you see, whether you are a hawker, you're a street seller, you are a freelancer, private tutor, well, you earn money, you earn income, you need e-invoice to prove your income, right? So you have to recognize your income. But that's not the most important thing. Did you know what's the most important thing for e-invoice? It's also your proof of expense. Yes. Do you know the guideline says it very clearly? Why do you need e-invoice? Because you want to prove that you have incurred such expense. Your purchases, your spendings, your discounts, returns, all your expenditure. You need to recognize the expense, right? So you need the e-invoice to prove that you have such expense. But here comes a few problems. I'll tell you a few problems. What if I'm buying from an individual? This individual is not conducting a business. You see, I give you an example. Let's say I am an antique seller. I buy antiques, I sell antiques, So I'm doing business. But, as an antique seller, I need to go source for antique. I need to go everywhere to look for antique, right? So I found this individual who is an antique collector. He collects a lot of antiques. And I say, hey, I want to buy this antique from you because I want to put it in my shop and I want to sell, okay? This individual is not doing business. Now, if he's not doing business, he is not registered for e-invoice. So he doesn't actually, he can't actually issue an e-invoice to me. So how do I prove that I have such expense then? I will need to do something called self-billed e-invoice. Now, what is this self-billed e-invoice? I'm going to tell you more, all right? Now, I'm going to tell you more about self-billed e-invoice later. I'm going to tell you more details. But see, for you as an e-invoice registrant, you will need to issue an e-invoice on your own. We call this self-billed e-invoice. You are like issuing it on behalf of the seller because the seller is not doing business, so that I have a proof of expense. See? Now, or if I buy from a foreign supplier, you see, if you buy something from a foreign supplier, the foreign supplier is not registered with our e-invoicing system. They do not need to be registered. But hey, I still need my proof of expense. What do? I will do self-billed e-invoice as well. So I'm going to tell you more about that. So now you get the idea. E-invoice is not just about income. Yes, it is about your income because you probably have to pay tax because you need to prove your income, right? But more importantly, e-invoice serves as your proof of expense. It's your proof of expenditure. And for tax purpose, you need e-invoice for you to claim deduction, right? It is for you to claim tax deduction, including if you say I am buying something which I will be entitled for tax relief, even individual tax, right? For individual tax relief, I need e-invoice to show that I have incurred such expense so that I get tax deduction. So now you know the importance of e-invoice. It's not just about sale. It's about your expense as well. Okay? Now, someone was asking me, what about all those toll? What about the parking? I'm going to tell you more because later I'll touch a bit on staff claims. I'm going to tell you more about how to handle staff claims as well. That's why I say, you guys please pay attention, stay until the end because let me tell you what, today is what? Today is double 12, right? Today is double 12, right? 12th of December, right? I've got something really, really special for all of you. You stay until the end, right? I can assure you, today is double 12. I've got something really, really special for you all. Okay, now we understand. Okay, so e-invoice is not just for me to prove my income, it's for me to prove my expense as well. Okay? Someone was saying, Nizam was saying, why things getting complicated? Now, Nizam, it will not be complicated if you understand how it works. Yeah, I'm going to tell you how the flow works, and you will see it's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. Yeah, you just have to listen. I'll tell you how it works. Yeah. Now, let's come to the types of e-invoice. Now, when I say e-invoice, see, e-invoice, you will probably only think about the sales, right? Oh, I issue invoice. But those who do accounting will probably know there are more different type of documents like credit note, like debit note, right? Okay, so these things are very common, right? And there's also one thing called refund note e-invoice. What is this refund e-invoice all about? Now, let me explain one by one. Invoice is simple. Yeah, when you sell something, you issue invoice. Yeah, that's one of the types of e-invoice. But what about credit note? Now, credit note happens when you have to reduce the price of your invoice, right? Say you give discount to someone or someone return the goods to you. Well, you have to issue credit note to reduce the price of your invoice, right? Debit note, the other way around. Increase the price of the invoice. Say you have undercharged someone, you have to use debit note to increase the price. What about refund? What is this? Now, if someone buys something from you and they say they have to return the goods to you and you have to refund them money, you will issue refund e-invoice. But some accounting background people will say, hey, I thought this one we can use credit note, right? Right? Now, that's the difference between credit note and refund. Credit note will be used when you don't involve return of money. There's no return of money. But if you return money to the buyer, to the customer, you will use refund e-invoice, right? I'll just show you one example. Then you will understand the difference between credit note and refund. Okay, let's say Mr. Jamal over here. All right, let's look at this. Mr. Jamal sold 200 shares, 200 of these shares to this company called Greens Sdn Bhd. Yeah, Greens Sdn Bhd. Now, if this person has sold 200 shares for 10 ringgit per share, right, 10 ringgit per share, of course, Greens Sdn Bhd will probably have to pay 2,000 ringgit for the 200 shares. Okay, after the shares have been received by Greens and the Greens have also paid, right, they discovered 8 units of the shares, 40, were faulty and has to be returned. Well, of course, they will then return these shares to Mr. Jamal, and what will Mr. Jamal do? Okay, now, need not to say Mr. Jamal need to refund because 8 shares have been returned, each share is 10 ringgit, so Mr. Jamal has to refund 80 ringgit, right? But at the same time, Mr. Jamal will issue refund e-invoice, refund e-invoice of 80 ringgit to Greens Sdn Bhd. That is because Mr. Jamal has received the money already. So now when there's a return of money, Mr. Jamal needs to use refund e-invoice. So now you get the difference, yeah? So here comes one of the most important thing about e-invoicing. Okay, see, I've been talking about e-invoicing, everyone needs to issue e-invoice, as a proof of income, proof of expense. You ask me this question, when do I have to start doing this? When do I have to start doing this e-invoicing? Look at the timeline. Now, look at the timeline. Now, the previous timeline, now this was the old timeline, no longer used. The previous timeline says it depends on your turnover, right? If you're a very big corporation means what? Your annual sales is more than 100 million per year. More than 100 million per year. You are called a big corporation. And you will ask me this question, which year do I look at? Which year do I look at for my 100 million sales turnover? Year 2022. You look at your financial year 2022, all right? So you should know by now already. Don't tell me I do not know what is my turnover. Your year 2022 accounts should have been closed. We are already at 2023's year end. We are already approaching the end of 2023. So you should know by now what is your annual sales, right, for year 2022. Now, if you say, oh, my annual sales for 2022, more than 100 million, okay, I'm a big corporation. Previously, you are supposed to actually implement from 1st June 2024, But now, good news, because of budget 2024, the good news, they say, okay, I give you 2 more months. I give you 2 more months. So you will only implement e-invoicing from 1st August 2024. All right. Now, what if I say I'm not that big? Yeah, I don't earn more than 100 million sales per year. Yeah, but I probably have more than 50 million sales per year, or more than 25 million sales per year. Yeah, for 2022. For year 2022. Previously, the timeline was 1st January 2025 and 1st January 2026, for these two categories, But now, these two categories have been combined to become one, right? If your annual sales more than 25 million ringgit up to 100 million ringgit, yeah, for the year 2022, you will have to start implementing e-invoice from 1st January 2025. 1st January 2025, how long is it from now? Approximately 1 year lah. Approximately another 1 year. So if you are in this category, you only have another 1 more year to go for you to implement, Now, and if you say, hey, I'm not that big also lah, I don't even have 25 million sales, I'm a small timer. I probably earn I only make 1 million or 2 million sales per year. Or some of you will probably say, I only make 100,000, 200,000 a year. Okay, you are the rest of the businesses, right? Previously, it says you will start implementing e-invoice from 1st January 2027. But now, no longer the case. This timeline has been brought forward by 18 months. Yes, by 18 months to 1st July 2025. Hey, did you know how far is 1st July 2025 from now? It's only about 18 months plus to go, 18 months plus to go, 1.5 years more to go, yeah? Everyone would need to implement e-invoicing, including those that only started doing business, from 2023 onwards. If you say, oh, I only start doing my business from 2023, I've got no accounts for 2022. Well, you will start implementing e-invoice from 1st July 2025. Now, what does that mean? It means by 1st July 2025, it's mandatory. Listen, it's mandatory for all taxpayers to implement e-invoice. So you cannot say, I don't want to know this yet. I don't want to learn about this yet. I'll just wait. Hey, you don't have a lot of time to wait. You only have another 18 months to go. And 80 months would just pass really fast, yeah? All right? Now, see, someone was asking, hey, my financial year is 31st March, below 25. Hey, if you tell me your financial year ended 31st March 2022, again, 2022, it's below 25 million, then you start implementing from 1st July 2025. All right? So that is the mandatory date for all taxpayers. Okay? Now, Lim Hong asked a really good question. Hey, what if my customer already implemented? I have not, because I'm small. My customer is big, yeah? So if I'm a small seller, but my customer is a big corporation, hey, do I have to also implement e-invoicing? Now, let me tell you this. This scenario could happen. Let me tell you, this scenario could happen. Imagine you are a small vendor. You are a small seller. Your customer is a big corporation. Now, your customer has implemented e-invoicing. So they have started to issue e-invoicing. Yeah? You are a small seller and you will just issue the normal receipt, the normal bill, right? Because you don't have to register yet, man. You don't have to implement e-invoicing yet, right? But let me tell you what, this could happen. Yeah? Your customer may ask you to voluntarily implement. They may ask you to voluntarily register yourself for e-invoicing. In other words, they may force you to register. You know why not? Because imagine your customer has to use e-invoice. If you continue to give them normal invoice, they will say, hey, you know what? You give me normal invoice, I have to key in all this into the system again. I have to do double work. But if you are registered for e-invoice, you know what? Every time when you give me e-invoice, automatically it appears in my system. I don't have to key in all this data anymore. You issue e-invoice, it appears in my system. So it saves my work, it saves my time, right? So you see, they may force you to register. And they may tell you, hey, if you don't want to register, don't be my seller, don't be my vendor, I don't want to buy from you. That could happen, So don't say, hey, I've got 18 months, don't worry, I've got 18 months to go. You probably may have to implement earlier than you expect. So this is what could happen. All right? So now, I want to also tell you, not everything will be subject to e-invoicing, okay? Because just I was telling you, right? commercial undertaking. If you're doing business, you're selling something that is on a commercial basis, yeah, of course, you have to use invoice. But what if I say, hey, I'm only paying salary to my staff? Of course, no need to do e-invoicing lah. I'm paying alimony, or I'm only distributing dividend, paying off dividend, all right? Or I'm only paying pension, scholarship, or even contributing to zakat. No need. All these, no need to do e-invoicing, yeah? But only these things are exempted from e-invoice, Apart from this, all commercial undertakings require e-invoice. See that? All right? Now, so here, I want to tell you the concept, okay? So now we know the implementation timeline, okay? We know what are the things that should be done, okay? Now, someone asked me a very good question. Will the recording be provided? I might need to drop off. Some people say too small. Okay, let me tell you what, guys. I know some of you may be asking this or may have this question in your mind. Hey, today, all these materials, can I have a copy of the slides? Can I have a copy of the materials? I know a lot of you want the materials, right? A lot of you want the slides, want the materials, right? I tell you what, today, because this is a free sharing session, so, we are not providing you with any slides, but you know what? You stay until the end. This one will tell you, right? We have all the way until 4 o'clock, right? You stay until the end. Today is double 12, isn't it? Today is double 12, right? 12th of December, right? Something really, really special that I want to give you all. I will tell you how you can actually get today's materials, and you can even get more. You can even get more on what I am sharing today. You get more, all right? I'm going to tell you more, all right? You're going to stay until the end. I'll tell you how to get all this information, more information. But today, I'm not giving out free slides, all right? I'm not giving out free slides. I'll tell you how to get this. But you stay until the end. I'll tell you. It's just Sarala's end of the slide. You stay until the end, Sarala. I'll tell you what to do. Okay? Now, recording. I'll tell you how to watch back today's recording as well. All right? You stay until the end. I'll tell you how to do that. Okay. Now, let me first explain how this e-invoicing works. Okay? Look, this is how the workflow is, right? Usually when we issue invoice, what do? We issue it to our customer, right? That's the usual thing we do. You issue invoice, of course, you give it to the customer because you want the customer to pay you. But let me tell you, when e-invoicing is being implemented, when you issue e-invoice, you don't give it to the customer. What? You don't give it to the customer? Yes, you don't give it to the customer. Then who do you give it to? You issue the e-invoice into the IRB system, the Inland Revenue Board system. Why don't you issue the invoice into the IRB system? Because it has to be validated. The Inland Revenue Board system will check the information and validate the invoice and return this validated invoice back to you. Yeah? So you will ask me, this validated e-invoice, how long would they take to validate? Would it be very long or not? Now, according to the guideline, it would only take 2 seconds. 2 seconds is all it takes to validate your invoice. So once the invoice has been validated, they will give a notification. The system, the invoice system will send notification to both parties, the seller and the buyer. Seller and buyer will be notified that, seller has issued an e-invoice, and it has been validated. And now you will get a copy of the validated e-invoice with an embedded QR code. Yes, there's a QR code in the e-invoice for the buyer or the seller to scan the QR code to check the validity, to see whether this is a real e-invoice or not. Now you can share this e-invoice with the seller. You can print out, you can email, no problem. Yeah? Because once the buyer receives this validated e-invoice, the buyer will check. They will check and see if everything is correct. And what if something is not right, something is wrong? The buyer can request for rejection. Yes, the buyer can request for rejection, but this has to be done within 72 hours. Some people would ask me this question, is 72 hours, does it mean working hours, working days? No, 72 hours means 72 hours. It includes public holidays, it includes weekends, yeah? So the buyer can request for rejection. After the buyer requests for rejection, the seller needs to take action as well. It will not be automatically rejected. The supplier, the seller, would have to say, okay, looks like something is really wrong. If the seller agrees, they will cancel the invoice. And this has to be done within 72 hours as well. So within 72 hours, only this invoice can be cancelled. After 72 hours, if everything is okay, it will be automatically accepted. I need not to do anything. After 72 hours, it will be accepted, and this invoice will be stored in the My Invoice portal for future use. For future reference, you can retrieve this invoice back from the portal. So this is how it works, Now, just now I've been telling you, okay, when you issue invoice, you have to issue it into the system. But now, what kind of system am I talking about? We're talking about the My Invoice portal. Yeah. Now, Chongyong is not 72 hours plus 72. It is the same 72 hours for the buyer to request for rejection and from the seller to cancel. It's the same 72 hours. Okay. Now, what is this My Invoice portal all about? You see, My Invoice portal is actually the My Invoice system that the Inland Revenue Board has created for everyone to use to generate e-invoice. Yeah. That's the portal. But now, you probably will have thought of something. Hey, if I have to do everything in the My Invoice portal, what if I already have my own accounting system? Then I probably have to do double work, I probably have to use my accounting system to issue invoice, and then at the same time, I have to go to the My Invoice portal and key in all the info again. Double work, lah too. Right? Got two double work, right? Now, so you may probably want to do application programming interface. We call this API. API means what? You integrate your current accounting software into the My Invoice system so that you don't do double work. So if I were to compare, My Invoice system is the IRB system given to you free. It's provided to you free of charge, need not to pay. Did you know the Inland Revenue Board spend a lot of money creating this? You can use the My Invoice portal to create invoice, and it is accessible to all taxpayers. As long as you have a tax file number, you can register yourself, you can use the My Invoice portal. So people were asking me about, the street sellers, street hawkers. Well, they can use this. This is free, and it is suitable for all the MSMEs. But if you say, no, I already have my own system. I have my own invoicing system. I have my own accounting system. I don't want to do double work. Then you probably have to do API, Application Programming Interface. Yeah, you have to talk to your accounting software. So this is when you have to start talking to your accounting software people. You got to start talking to them. Someone asked me, is QuickBooks compatible? Go ask QuickBooks. Go and ask QuickBooks right now. Hey, would you be able to do API or not for e-invoicing? Yeah? Because they will have to integrate the system, the software, into the My Invoice portal so that you don't have to do double work. Whenever you use your own software, you issue invoice automatically. In the My Invoice portal, there will be an e-invoice there already. See that or not? Yeah? So, of course, this one, you need to talk to your accounting software people. You probably have to pay them some fees for them to integrate it into the My Invoice portal. So, there are two ways of doing this. So, if I were to tell you the flow again, now look, if I were to tell you the flow again, this is how it really works, Whenever you issue invoice, this is how it works, As a supplier, whether you use the My Invoice portal, the IRB's free portal, or you use the API, the process is the same. You will issue the e-invoice. You don't issue it to the buyer. You see, you don't send it directly to the buyer yet. You issue into the IRB system, the IRB cloud system, because this system will validate your invoice. And like I said, it takes only 2 seconds. Yeah, it takes only 2 seconds to validate, return the validated e-invoice to you. And at the same time, you see number three, a validation notification will be sent to both parties. Both parties will be informed that, hey, that's a validated e-invoice issued by the supplier. So you can now share the validated e-invoice because it has been validated with the QR code, right? Now, then what happens next is the buyer will check the details in the e-invoice. If they say everything is okay, then they just leave it. They can just leave it, All right, but if they say, okay, something is wrong, they can request for rejection. If they request for rejection, now, this system will then also notify both parties. Yeah? There's a request for rejection notification sent to both parties. And of course, the supplier will have to take action. If the supplier thinks that something is really wrong, the supplier needs to cancel and everything has to be done within 72 hours. 72 hours from the day when the invoice has been validated. So then a cancellation notification will be sent as well. But if everything is okay, no cancellation needed, well, after 72 hours, it will be accepted. It will be stored in the IRB's database. Why is it very important? Because both the buyer and the seller will be able to retrieve this invoice from the My Invoice system. They can go back to the My Invoice portal. They can always retrieve back using their dashboards. See, this is how the whole e-invoicing workflow works, all right? So, who can use My Invoice portal? You may ask me, do I have to specially register myself? Actually, you don't really have to specially go and get this and that. All right. Now, same question from Emmeline. 72 hours including weekend and holidays. Yes, it includes every day. Yeah, not just working days. Now, first thing first, for you to use My Invoice portal, you only need to have a tax identification number. All right. You only need to have a tax identification number. What is that? Your income tax file number. Right? Your income tax file number. Now, I believe as a company, you definitely have the income tax file number. For sure, right? And if you say, what if I'm just an individual? Do you know that the government has started to automatically assign a tax identification number to you, once you turn 18? Once you turn 18, right? But if you tell me, hey, I really don't have a tax identification number, then what to do? If you really don't have, and you want to use the My Invoice portal, please go register yourself. You can go to My Tax portal to register yourself for the tax identification number, which is your income tax file number, the one that starts with IG. If it's a company, the one that starts with C, we call it C number, right? So because once you have a tax identification number, you can obtain a digital certificate and you will use your digital certificate to issue e-invoice. Yeah. So just now I've been telling you all the steps, right? First step is to create the invoice and submit. Step 2 will be validation. The IRB system will validate, and then they will notify both parties that this invoice have been validated. So step 4 is for you to share. You can now share the validated e-invoice with the QR code with your customer. So for step 5, 6, and 7 is about rejection and cancellation, and everything has to be done within 72 hours. And after that, if everything is okay, not rejected, like someone was asking me, hey, what if nothing is done? Like how if supplier think nothing wrong and no action taken? No action taken, it will be accepted after 72 hours and it will be saved in the database and everyone can go back and retrieve this invoice. See, that's how the whole workflow works. Now, here comes a very important thing. This is very important. I want you to pay attention to this. When it comes to e-invoice, you need to have details, right? What kind of details do you need to put into your e-invoice? Do you know there are 51 required fields for your e-invoice? You probably will ask me, 51? The normal invoice that I'm issuing right now, I don't even see 51 details, You tell me 51, Yes, 51, Now, but I must tell you, don't be too afraid first. Don't be too afraid, Even though it says 51 required fields, but, okay, later when I tell you all these details, if these are applicable to you, you put in these fields. But if they're not applicable to you, then no need to put in, right? Only when they're applicable to you, you have to put in. Like, for example, you definitely have to put in your name and the supplier's name, buyer's name, you have to put in, right? This one for sure, right? As a supplier, in future, you need to put in your TIN, your tax identification number, which is your income tax file number. Last time we never put this, right? You have to put this into your invoice right now. Then, of course, you put in your registration number, your SSM registration number. All right? If you are registered for SST, put in your SST registration number. If you are registered for tourism tax, put in your tourism tax registration number. Then you got to put in your email address as well. Then MSIC code. What is this? Some people ask me, what is MSIC code? I'll tell you what, a lot of people still do not know what is their MSIC code, You got to find out your MSIC code already. What is MSIC code? It is a 5-digit code, that tells you what is your company doing, what is your business doing. Where do you find this? In your income tax return form. In your income tax return form. Yes, no, Suriana. Industry code. Yeah, it tells you what you are doing. You go to your income tax return form, your form B, your form C, your form P. The MSIC code is in there. So you got to put in your MSIC code on your e-invoice, and then your business activity description. What about your buyer's details? We always only get their name, right? Nah. You need to get their TIN as well. You need to get the buyer's tax identification number, which means what, in future, let me tell you, if you always have to go out and buy something for the company, you don't just bring your own company's name. You got to bring along your company's TIN. your company's tax identification number. You got to bring that along, because you need to put in the company's income tax number onto the e-invoice. Then, of course, you need to put in the registration number, the SST registration number, the email, of course, all the address, the contact number has to be in the e-invoice as well. All right. Now, not just this, when it comes to invoice details, you put in your e-invoice version. Now, of course, we will know more about, how to put e-invoice version. The IRB will update us. What kind of version do we put in? Then the e-invoice type, whether it is invoice, credit note, debit note, refund, right? The invoice number, the code, the serial number, okay? And then the original e-invoice reference number. If this is a credit note or debit note, you need to put back the original e-invoice number as reference, yeah? Then the date and time of validation. This one will be automatically inserted when your e-invoice is being validated. Then the digital signature, right? And the currency code. If you're selling in ringgit, you just put MYR lah. MYR is your currency code lah. But if you're selling in foreign currency, then you put your foreign currency code. And of course, you have to put in the exchange rate, the frequency of billing, and the billing period. Now, one very unique thing here is there will be an IRBM unique identifier number. This is an unique ID for every validated e-invoice, which will be automatically inserted when you generate and validate the e-invoice. Now, then it comes to your goods and services. You have to classify them, describe them with a unit price, the tax. If you have got SST, let's say, you're going to put in the tax as well, details of any exemption, and then amount exempted, and also the subtotal. See it or not? All these things need to be put in. And not just this, we have 51, right? You have to put in the total excluding tax, total including tax as well. But of course, for the last 11, the final 11 item, it is optional. It is optional. If you find that these things are useful, you want to put this in, put this in. Otherwise, they are optional. Like quantity, measurement, discount, payment mode, supplier's bank account number, payment terms, payment amount, bill reference number, things like that. All these are optional. But look, 51 fields required for you to put into invoice. Gary Ho says a very good thing. Validation 2 seconds, but filling up 20 minutes already. Now, let me tell you what, a lot of things over here, right? It is the first time when you design your e-invoice, it's going to be troublesome. You got to do all these things, put in all the details. But once you have already designed your e-invoice, it's going to be very simple. Really, you know why? Because we have asked the Inland Revenue Board officer before. When you sell something to a buyer, all you need to get is the buyer's TIN. You only need this. Once you have the buyer's TIN, you key in the buyer's TIN, the tax identification number, into the system will automatically retrieve all other information, and all this other information will appear onto the e-invoice. So it's not that difficult. What you need to do is always carry the TIN. Always carry the TIN around. Then everything will be simple. So let me show you, this is an example. I know it's a little bit small. I know it's a little bit blurred. But this is how an example of e-invoice looks like. Of course, it contains your supplier's name, address, telephone number, email address. But you don't just put this. You've got to put all this supplier's TIN, registration number, MSIC code. If you're registered for SST, put your SST ID as well. The buyer's details, the name, the tax PIN, the registration number, address, everything. But more importantly is once this e-invoice has been validated, there will be a digital signature. And there will be validation time and date over here as well. You see validation time and date is here. And you get a QR code. This QR code is for someone to scan to check if this is a real validated e-invoice. Okay? So this is how an example of e-invoice looks like. Okay? Now, I know a lot of you now is thinking that, oh my God, now I got headache already. I really do not know how to do this. Trust me, it's not that difficult. If you know how to handle this, if you know step by step how to handle this, how to slowly implement this, it is not going to be that difficult. You've got to learn. You cannot say, I want to use the old style, I want to use the old way. No, you got to learn. I know this is challenges for old style businessmen, but you got to know. You got to know. Someone say, but what if I don't know the buyer's TIN? Go ask. Tell the buyer, if you don't give me a TIN, I can't give you an e-invoice for you to claim expense, you wouldn't get a valid e-invoice to claim an expense, that would be the issue. Okay? Now, after I've told you so many things, I want to just ask you this. Now, think about these questions, everyone, right? Everyone, think about these questions right now. since e-invoice is going to be a process change, it's going to affect, if you really look at this is about a process change, yeah? What would be the impacts in your current process right now? If you are right now also issuing invoice, how would it impact your current process because of this mandatory invoicing? Now, I want to ask you all, right? You don't have to answer me. You don't have to answer me. You just answer to yourself. Have you been backdating invoices? Have you been backdating invoices? If you have been, let me tell you what, there's no way to backdate e-invoices. There's no way. Because all the e-invoices are actually stamped electronically when you issue them. It follows the current real time. How to backdate, right? Now, would you like to go back and always amend your invoice? After issue invoice, you go back and say, hey, I want to amend some description. Hey, after 72 hours, e-invoice will be stored in the IRB system, in the database. Can you still go back and amend invoice? You answer for your own. Now, do you need additional manpower? I know some people may say, hey, now that every time I have to go to the My Invoice portal, key in into My Invoice portal, do I need more manpower? And most importantly, is real-time accounting now required? Some people only like to prepare the accounts few months after closing, few months after closing only they're doing accounts, Can you still do that or not? You have to do it real time because everything is real time. All your e-invoice has to be done real time. So these would be definitely your impacts. Have you wondered how to handle these impacts? Okay? You think for your own, all right? Now, few more things. Just now someone has been wondering, because I have mentioned to you about self-built e-invoice, right? You see, I want to tell you a little bit about self-built e-invoice. Just now I said, hey, if I go and buy from, let's say, an individual, you look at the bottom one, I go and buy something from an individual, but this individual is not conducting a business. Hey, I have to do a self-built e-invoice because this individual is not running a business. This individual cannot issue me e-invoice because they're not even registered. They're not running a business. So what do? I need to prove my expense, right? I do self-built e-invoice, okay? Or I buy from a foreign supplier, right? Just like I mentioned, right? Foreign supplier is not even registered with our system. I need the proof of expense. I will do self-built e-invoice, right? So you see, these 6 scenarios allow me to do self-built e-invoice. Yeah, when I make payment to agents, dealers, or distributors, when I buy from a foreign supplier, when I do dividend distribution, e-commerce, pay out to betting and gaming winners, or even acquire something from individual taxpayers not running a business, I do self-built e-invoice. But how does it work? Okay, let me tell you, how does it work? I give you this example. Cross-border transaction. Yeah, cross-border transaction. Okay, listen. Let's say if I have transaction with a foreign supplier, we call this cross-border transaction, right? So it's cross-border transaction involves Malaysian and a foreign supplier, or vice versa. All right, okay. Now let's say foreign supplier sells something to Malaysian buyer. Malaysian buyer doesn't get any e-invoice because the foreign supplier is not registered with our system. But the Malaysian buyer needs to prove the expense. So the Malaysian buyer will issue a self-built e-invoice to document this. Yeah? Because if they don't have the self-built e-invoice, they can't prove the expense, right? So if I were to show you the flow, this is how it would work, Foreign supplier sells either goods or services to the Malaysian buyer, But now, this foreign supplier will say, sorry, I've got no e-invoice for you because I'm not even registered with your e-invoice system. Okay? They will just issue a normal invoice for the purchase of goods or services. But hey, as a Malaysian buyer, if you are already in the e-invoicing system, you cannot just leave it, You can't just leave it. You've got to assume the role of the supplier and issue a self-built e-invoice because you need this validated self-built e-invoice for you to prove your expense. You cannot just say, I don't care. No, you need to do something. Of course, if the imported taxable service, there's a service tax on it, then you must include the service tax for the imported taxable service into your self-built e-invoice as well. Get that? Now, what about consolidated e-invoice? Now, imagine this. I am running a restaurant, okay? I'm running a restaurant. You remember just now I was telling you about everyone needs to carry the tax identification number. Imagine if you've got hundreds of customers coming into your restaurant every day. thousands of customers coming into your restaurant every day. Hey, if you need to issue e-invoice to each and every one of them, let me tell you what, even if you have 10, 20 waiter, not enough. You got the double, triple the number of waiters that you need, all right? Why? Every time when your customer come and eat, right, before they finish, your waiter has to go there. Sorry, sir. Sorry, miss. You know what? I need to issue e-invoice to you. Can I get your PIN? Can I get your tax identification number, your IC number, your phone number, your address? Let me tell you what. Your customer is gonna say, what restaurant is this? Asking me for my personal information while I'm eating. Isn't it? This is gonna be crazy, right? So don't worry. Don't worry. It's not gonna be that way, all right? We have this thing called consolidated e-invoice. Now, how does it work? How does it work? If you sell something to your customer and your customer says, I don't need e-invoice. You see, you will only need e-invoice if you say, I want to claim tax deduction. I want to put it into my business account. I want to claim tax relief. If I'm just an ordinary, customer that eats, and this is my private expenditure, I don't even need to claim anything. What? If I don't need to claim anything, the buyer doesn't need an e-invoice. And as a seller, as a restaurant, you continue to issue your normal receipt, your normal bill. Don't need to do any e-invoice, don't need, right? You just use your normal practice, the current practice, because the buyer doesn't need it to substantiate for tax purpose, right? Doesn't need it, right? But you as a seller, you need to do one more thing. All these bills, all these receipts, which you have not issued e-invoice, you need to consolidate. You need to consolidate all of them on a monthly basis. Monthly basis. So every month, you consolidate everything and you do a consolidated e-invoice within 7 calendar days. Calendar days are not working days, all right? It's 7 calendar days, including public holiday, including weekends, all right? And once this is validated, you don't have to share it with your buyer. You don't even know who your buyer is, what? You can't even find your buyer anymore, right? So just validate it, submit it into the system. That is your proof of income. That is your proof of sales. See that or not? But ask me, what if someone wants to claim, they go eat dinner, they want to claim from company, then no choice. You've got to tell the customer, hey, you want to claim company, right? Please give me the company's PIN, then I issue e-invoice to your company. Then the staff will have e-invoice under the name of company and claim from the company. That's how it works. Okay? Now, so I give you one example. Let's say this restaurant XYZ, they only need issue normal receipts, because the customer doesn't need the e-invoice. So they still need to consolidate. They need to consolidate all the receipts which the customer have not requested for e-invoice and consolidate them, submit a consolidated e-invoice within 7 calendar days every month. All right. This is your proof of income. Okay. Got it? Now, about staff claim. Some people also ask me this question. Hey, what if my staff goes out, buy something, right? Now, like Lynn asked me a question, if I do dinner with client, need to claim it from company, then you need to request e-invoice, That's right, Lynn, Okay, see, if it's a staff claim, I go out, I buy something, I buy for my company. It can be my benefits. It could be my membership, my gym membership or professional subscription, or it can be accommodation, toll, parking, mileage. See, just now someone asked me, right? What about toll? What about parking, right? See, the rules is simple. If you need to claim from the company, you should get an e-invoice in the name of the company. So you know what's the important thing right now? Go tell all the staff, that needs to go out and buy things for the company, bring along the company's TIN, bring along the company's tax identification number, because only with the tax identification number, you can get an e-invoice in the name of the company, right? So next time, maybe we say, even our business card, print the TIN on the business card, right? Not just the company's name, because that is needed for e-invoice. You see? So you need to do that. Now, let me show you some example. Let's say this employee, right, go and stay in a hostel, all right? Go and stay in a hostel. And of course, I say, hey, this is for me to claim from the company. So they go and tell, this staff go and tell the hostel, please issue e-invoice in the name of the company, in the name of the employer. No problem. They issued an invoice in the name of the employer. Of course, the staff will pay first. The staff may pay first and submit it to the company for claims. Done. Simple, right? You get an invoice in the name of the company, claim back from the company. But what if this seller is not able to issue e-invoice in the name of the employer? Why? For example, gym membership, let's say gym membership. Hey, the staff is the member. The staff is the member, all right? Not the company, company is not the member. So the gym will say, hey, I can't issue in the name of your employer. The employer is not my member. You are my member. Right? So they will have to issue e-invoice to the individual's name. Yeah, individual's name. So individual will still have to pay first, right? After paying, can they claim back from the company? Yes. This individual can still claim back from the company, and the company, now listen, the company can still use the e-invoice issued in the name of the employee to use this as proof of expense for tax purpose. Because in this situation, the seller cannot issue e-invoice in the name of the company, right? They can issue in the name of the staff, and the company can still use this e-invoice in the name of the staff to use as proof of expense. See? So that is how it works when it comes to self-claim. So all other things, whether it's petrol, toll, parking, yes, you need to get e-invoice, and if possible, get it under the name of the company if you want to claim as company's expenses. Get that or not? Now, you see, I've roughly told you a lot about the concept of e-invoice, some details, right, and some particular transactions, how to deal with e-invoice. But what if you don't do it right? See, if you don't do it right, let me tell you what, it's something serious, because the Income Tax Act has been amended. The Income Tax Act Section 120 has been amended to say, if you fail to do e-invoicing correctly, the fine is minimum 200, maximum 20,000, or imprisonment not exceeding 6 months or both. And you may ask me, it is 200 to 20,000, is this per offense? Yes, it's per offense. Offense, failure to enter and submit invoice, failure to do self-bill e-invoice, failure to do consolidated e-invoice, per offense, minimum 200. Imagine this, I want to just tell you, imagine this, if let's say every month you have 100 transactions, just say 100 transactions, all right, and you fail to comply with e-invoicing, even if the fine is 200, minimum 200, you do the math, 100 transactions, 200 per transaction is 200 multiplied by 100, that's 20,000 already, easily. So you got to get things right. You got to understand how it works, how to use this, how to adapt to this for your business. Okay? Now, I know after telling you all this, you probably are very worried right now. You probably say that, oh my God, I better resign. Many of you right now think, I better resign first. Can do accounts already? Do accounts very dangerous. How many of you here thinking of resigning already? Next day, go and put a tender resignation. Don't resign. Okay, don't resign. Okay, retire, early retirement. Don't do accounts anymore or resign. Now, let me tell you what. I know you're probably worried. I know you probably think that this thing is gonna be very difficult. But trust me. This is not difficult if you know the details. If you know how to handle it step by step, it's not gonna be difficult because everything is there. The guidelines are there. They will teach you step by step how to do it. Now, but the important thing is, are these your problems? All right. I always tell people this is not difficult, but you will tell me these problems. Now I want to ask you, are these your problems? All right. You always say, hey, there are always changes. This thing always change. There are always new guidelines. How do I stay updated to all these changes? How do I stay updated and get and receive all the alerts? Is this your problem because you don't get the latest changes? Or you will tell me, what information is most accurate? How do I get the latest and most accurate information? I hear from here, I hear from there, I see this, I see that, I do not know which one is true, which one is correct, right? Is this your problem? Is it Catherine says my problem? Yeah? And you know that if you find someone, a consultant, right? A tax consultant to come and give you advice, it's probably very expensive. Probably 5 figures, 6 figures, 6 figures fee for tax consultants to come in to advise, right? Is this also your problem? Let me tell you what. I want to address all these problems. I want to help all of you. And here, I want to tell you one thing. We have got this thing. We've created a package. This package is something that I want you to have because I want you to be successful. This is something that you need to be successful. It helps you save tax. It helps you increase profit. It helps you increase value. This is called TaxPod. TaxPod stands for Tax Professionals on Demand. Is this what you want? If I tell you there's one package that can help you to save tax, increase profit, increase value, is this what you want? I want to ask all of you, how many of you here want to know more how TaxPod can really help you handle all these things, all these issues, and help you overcome all your challenges? Who wants to know more? If you want to know more, can you put a yes? Can you put a yes in the chat box? Come on. If you want to know more, I'll tell you more about this. Because this is a package that we have created. We want to help you. We want you to use this all in one package to handle all these problems, right? This is something that we have created. If you want to know more, put a yes. Come on, put a yes in the chat box. I'll tell you more. I'll tell you more about this. Because just now I was telling you, right? You want to find out more about e-invoices. You want to know more on how to handle this. You want all the slides. You want all the videos. You want all the recordings. They are all here. They're all here. You want to know how to find out how to get this? Come, I show you. First of all, what is TaxPod? In TaxPod, first of all, we give you a lot of videos, masterclass videos. You know, all these masterclass videos is based on our 49 years of expertise, 49 years of experience. We compile all our knowledge. We give you theory. We give you case studies. They're all short videos, you know, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, even the longer ones will be 8 minutes, 10 minutes. We talk about income tax. We talk about SST. We even teach you how to fill up forms. And all these short videos